Hi, it's Diana here. Today I'm going to show you how to make perfect molten lava cakes with an ooey gooey chocolatey center. So let's get going. I have all of our ingredients laid out. First, we're going to be using a 4-ounce bar of Ghirardelli semi-sweet baking chocolate. Next is pure vanilla extract. Then we have Himalayan pink sea salt, and any salt will do. Next, I have 1 stick of unsalted butter, 4 eggs. 2 of the eggs will be used whole, and 2 of them we're going to separate to use just the yolks. Next, I have some pure almond extract, flour, and 1 cup of powdered sugar. Let's head over to the stove where I'm going to show you how to set up a double boiler. A double boiler is used in situations where we need to melt or heat something that's very sensitive to heat, and we don't want to accidentally burn it. So the way we construct a double boiler is by putting a pan on the bottom. This is going to contain our water that will boil. And next, I want to make sure that a bowl fits on top of it. And you want to make sure that this bowl is bigger than the pot underneath, because it shouldn't float on the water. It should actually be supported by the sides of the pot. Now that I know the bowl I want to put on top fits well, I'll lift it off. I'll put 1 cup of water into the pan underneath. I'll turn the heat on high to get this bottom water boiling. Once I see that it's boiling, I can come back and put the top bowl on top. But for now, I'm just going to leave it off while this water heats up. We'll work on prepping our eggs while the water in our double boiler heats up. So remember I said we need 2 eggs and 2 egg yolks. So I'm going to separate 2 eggs from the yolk. And watch how I do this. I'm going to gently tap the egg until it cracks in half so I can pull the shells neatly in half. I'm just going to shuttle the yolk back and forth while the white part of the egg falls away. And there I have a nice yolk that is separated. I'm going to do the same for 1 more so we can get 2 nice looking egg yolks. Now the reason I separate my eggs first instead of cracking full eggs in is because this gives me more chances to get the egg separation right. Since we need 2 full eggs in this recipe as well, I might as well try to separate 2 yolks first. And if it somehow gets messed up and you end up getting yolk broken, then it's okay to just use that as one of your full eggs and then move on to another egg to try to separate that yolk properly. So now that I have 2 egg yolks, I'm going to go ahead and just crack my other 2 eggs into the bowl. Let's head back over to the stove and check on our double boiler. The bottom water was boiling nicely, so I put the top bowl on, and now I can add my stick of butter to the top bowl. Notice how it's already starting to melt really well, but I don't have to worry about it burning because I'm set up in a double boiler. As this butter melts, I'm going to get my chocolate bar ready, so I'll take it out of the wrapper, I'll break it up into pieces, and then we'll just drop those pieces right in with the butter. This started melting together really beautifully, so I'm going to get my wire whisk out, hold on to this bowl with a hot mitt because it is hot, it is over fire, and it does have boiling water underneath, so make sure you have a hot mitt on the hand that's going to be holding the bowl. Whisk this mixture of butter and chocolate until it's smooth, all combined, and starting to look shiny and glossy. The chocolate mixture looked beautifully shiny and glossy, so we take it off the heat, move back over to our work surface, and we're going to start combining the other ingredients to make this cake batter. The first ingredient to go in is going to be our 1 cup of powdered sugar. Keep whisking as you add the powdered sugar to make sure that your chocolate mixture is going to stay smooth. Notice how I'm really trying to make sure I work all the way to the bottom bowl to make sure none of the sugar is sticking or getting clumped up. This is going to be key to making a smooth chocolate lava cake. All the extra stirring I'm doing here is also serving another purpose. It's helping my chocolate and butter mixture cool off to make sure that it's not going to be too hot when I go to add the eggs. If my mixture is too hot when I add the eggs are just going to cook and you're going to have a really terrible consistency in your cake. So you want to make sure that your chocolate and butter mixture is cool enough before you get to the step where you add eggs to make sure that the eggs stay raw and fold into a smooth batter. Next, 2 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract are going in. Then 1/4 teaspoon of pure almond extract. Give that chocolate mixture a stir with the extracts in there to make sure all that beautiful flavor gets distributed evenly. Next, we're going to work on incorporating our eggs. So I'm going to use my whisk and just break up those egg yolks a little bit. Then I'm going to slowly pour my eggs into my chocolate and butter mixture. I'm going to make sure I stir that as I add the eggs because I want this batter to be really nice and smooth. Everything's going to be incorporated well, so every bite is going to be the same. And this is also going to help ensure that I have that nice molten center. Because the thing with a chocolate molten cake is it's not a cake that you bake and then you inject a molten center into it. It is actually a custard that we're making with this chocolate butter and egg with the extra egg yolks. And we're just going to cook it so it bakes the outside of the custard and not the inside. So the inside, the molten part, is actually just the uncooked custard of this cake batter. This batter looks beautifully smooth and incorporated. Now we can add our 6 tablespoons of flour and our dash of salt. Remember, when we measure flour, I want to have it spooned into this bowl so I can easily spoon it out and put it in my measuring spoon. I'm going to scoop it and then level it off with the flat part of the arm of the spoon. This ensures that the flour is not going to be packed down, that we're not going to add too much to make it a thick and tough batter. You just want nice fluffy flour to ensure you have the correct amount in your batter. And now for the salt, just a few dashes in there to make that flavor really pop. And I am going to mix this, being careful not to over mix it. That's going to make it a tough batter if the gluten gets developed. So I want to mix this just enough to incorporate the flour, but not make it too tough. Once I have the flour incorporated, that is going to give the outside of the cake that really nice crust while leaving the inside gooey and molten. Our batter is all set. Let's prepare our ramekins. This recipe makes 4 ramekins of chocolate molten cake. If we don't do anything to the ramekins, the chocolate cake is going to stick into the ramekins. So I want to use some avocado oil spray. You can also use some butter or some coconut oil and just use your finger to rub the inside of the ramekins with the grease. After I spray these, I'm going to use my finger to rub the ramekins and just make sure I have grease on all surfaces inside the ramekin. As I'm going through and evaluating how I did on the greasing, I think that I have too much avocado oil in each of the ramekins. So I'm going to go back with a paper towel and just wipe them again and try to bring up some of that excess oil. Now the ramekins are ready, so I can go ahead and split up this batter into 4 equal parts. Let's not stop there though. There's still a ton of batter left in that bowl, and you know me, I don't like to waste anything. So I'm coming back with my spoon spatula to scrape down the sides of my batter bowl and get every last drop of that beautiful chocolate batter into my ramekins. Next, I'm coming back over each ramekin with a damp towel to clean off any of the batter spills that I have. The reason I'm doing this is not because I really need it to look pretty, but it's because I don't want any of those splatters of batter to burn while I'm baking them. If those burn, it's going to give off that burnt smell and burnt taste into the rest of the chocolate cakes. So that's why it's important to clean up these ramekins before we put them in the oven. These are going right onto the oven rack and into my 425-degree oven. We've reached the end. I've pulled 2 of my molten cakes out at 13 minutes. I left the other 2 in for 1 minute more just so we could see the difference in how much they baked in that last minute. So this is where it's super important to keep an eye on your time. You don't want to overcook them, otherwise you won't have a molten center. So you can see the difference in darkness from left to right. Before I release these from the ramekins, I'm going to use a butter knife to run around the edge of each of the cakes to just help it release from the ramekin, so when I pour it out onto the plate, it's going to be in that nice round shape. The moment of truth comes with the first molten lava cake transfer. So I turn the plate upside down, put it on top of the ramekin, and then flip both pieces over at the same time. Let's see if we can get this cake to release. And there it is. You can see a little piece of the cake pulled off with it, revealing that molten center, and that is totally fine. So here's my 13-minute cake. I'm just gonna run that knife around, release it again, flip that plate over the top, turn it all over at the same time, and there we go. Release the second cake, and you can see that delicious molten center. The last thing to finish it off is to add some powdered sugar. So I'm using a little wire mesh strainer. Put the powdered sugar in the top. I just tap the edge with my spoon to get that beautiful powdered sugar distributed across the top of the cakes. Let's cut into one and check out that awesome molten center, which makes this a super special dessert. That concludes this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you love your chocolate molten lava cakes. I'll see you in the next lesson.